Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome. Uh, welcome to InfoAge and the awards dinner. My name is John Cervini. I'm the board chairman here, and it should be a very, very pleasant evening. I'd just like to say that those of you who came in noticed in the other room, we had all these magnificent plaques of the winners of the Wall of Honor in the past. And we'll have two tonight. And Mike Rowan, our CEO, will let you know about that. And you have in your program. A comment was made that for tonight's winners, there's no more room on the wall for their plaques when they receive them. So I have to tell you that Mike Rowan already has a solution. Tony, you don't have to worry about that, because we're going to redo all the plaques the size of postage stamps. Because he expects that we'll have a lot more in the future. Also, I have one thing before I turn it over. We have a request that after the dinner, if we're a little early, if some people would like to see some of the facility we have here now. Now, Bob Palazzo, since you were at the Wall of Honor introducing people years ago, we've expanded a lot of things and we have a lot of new things to see. So we're going to show people the electronic warfare exhibit and the potential expanded EW Radar Intel Pavilion, the Radio Technology Museum. Richard Lee, is that okay? And Jeff, if necessary, people, if you'd like to see the Vintage Computer Federation, the history of computers, you can see that also. Okay, it's a very enjoyable evening tonight. I'd like to introduce the man who makes it happen, our CEO, Mr. Michael Rowan.
Like John mentioned, on the wall outside, we are running out of space. So really, Tony, Bob, we're not gonna shorten your photos or anything else like that. We're just going to get rid of a couple of the people we don't like. Okay. Before we start, a few admin announcements. Fire exits again, door this way, that way, windows. Okay. Bathrooms, down the hallway. Women's room is right down here on the right. The men's room is down the other side of the lobby. I'd like to let you know, thanks to a great work by Senator Vin Gopal, who's going to be here later on, all our bathrooms now work. Okay, now people have been here for a couple of years. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so they now all work. Smoking only on the porch, and we have tables and chairs out there for you. So there's no problem there. And we have the silent auction with some of the things back there. If you get an opportunity, go take a look at it. We will accept cash, check, Venmo, and children. I'd like to do some introductions of our board members. The chair, John Savini. We just saw John. He's back there behind the pillar. I can't see him. Vice chair is Henry Muller. I just want to let you know, John said about going out and looking at the various museums we have. The program for the awards starts at 8 o'clock. Should be finished by 8:30. Right, Henry?
Right.
Yeah. People are only going to talk. The introduction is only going to be 5 minutes long. I just want to let you know that, okay? Anybody want to time them? Let me know. I'm sitting right over here. You're going to time them? Okay, we got timers. Our treasurer is Mike Smith. Mike and I have a real problem because I'm always betting on the money to come. He's betting on the money that we have to have here right now. A lot of fights. Secretary Tom Senegren. He's a doctor, but not the type that if you fall down, he's not going to help you. Jules Belicio, another doctor. Where's Jules? Jules back there in that corner. Fred Call, who's the founder. Steve Lang. Dan Lee. Yep. Jay Red. Brian Wick. Are you getting the idea that I'm introducing everybody in the room? Yes. We got Former trustee here, Bob Palazzo. If the air conditioning doesn't work, blame him. Many years ago, he was here when Bob Giordano, we awarded Bob Giordano, and it was hotter than hell. And he went back and he said, we got to do something about this. Next thing we know, we got a $50,000 prize, I guess it is, to put air conditioning in this place. And this is the air conditioning you see around here right now, thanks to Bob. And we have a trustee emeritus, Barbara Ruane. If the name sounds familiar, she's my adult supervision, just let you know. Our honorees tonight are going to be for the Wall of Honor with Tony Lisuzzo. Tony? Bob Zanzalari. Okay, Bob. We have the Chairman's Award is going to be going to Senator Vin Gopal. He'll be here a little bit later on. He's a politician, especially this time. I mean, he's all over the place right now going to dinners. This way here, he can fill up there so we don't have to feed him here. So save a couple of bucks. And for our Patriot Award is Ray Chase. Anybody I missed, put your hands up. Okay, not too many. Okay. My right and left arms, Pat Flanagan is my right arm. He's the site manager. And Gloria Kudrick. Gloria Kudrick is actually my right arm. You can't believe the work that she did to put this together. Tables, chairs, everything, moving stuff around, setting up. She did yeoman's work here, and I really appreciate it, and we couldn't do it without her. Again, I'd like to welcome you to InfoAge. We like to call it New Jersey's mini Smithsonian. We're a National Historic Landmark, one of only 2,600 nationwide, and we are New Jersey's World War II Living Memorial. And this is pretty special to us. Our 35-acre campus is over 20 museums and exhibits at the present time, and we're constantly growing. This encompasses over 50,000 square feet. That's a lot of room. Many of these exhibits are one-of-a-kind artifacts that you're not going to find anyplace, not even at Smithsonian or other museums around the country. And that's why we call it New Jersey's mini Smithsonian. 2025 has been a great year, but like everything else, we still have much to do. I think I spoke a year or two ago and I said that 2014, New Jersey State came in here and did a master plan of how much it would take to renovate this place to put it back to where it should be. And it came out to $15 million. And that was in 2014. We've been eating at this thing just a bite at a time, and we still got a long way to go, but we're starting to make little inroads. One of the things we had this year, we have the Fire Museum to highlight the huge amount of innovation, modern innovation that was developed at Fort Monmouth for the fire service that could be linked to military developments. It's our newest museum and had a soft opening in August. Our Electronic Warfare Radar Museum is now open, and we're working on 3 new exhibits: Vietnam, the U.S. Navy, and a military photography. U.S. Navy one is pretty cool. We have a gentleman here by the name of Pat O'Brien who has who's built a 12-foot replica of the New Jersey. And it's going to be open, I think we're looking at around Pearl Harbor, right around that time. And it's a beautiful piece of work that's taken them right now over 3 years to put together. Tied in with the EW is our RC-12 aircraft, the guardrail aircraft, and AOC has donated the funds to complete the exhibit to include painting it, putting in a hard stand, and we're actually going to put runway lights. Now here's an interesting story, all right? You can't believe what people think. The aircraft came in parts, we put it together and so forth and so on. And shortly after that, a woman was coming through here and she asked me, how do we get the aircraft to land there? I said, we did it in the dead of night. This way here, she was satisfied. The Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, who screwed that up, IEEE, have allowed us to display a truly professional national level exhibit from March until late December. It's known as Unseen Signals. This is Edmund Armstrong's radar revolution, which showcases his role in opening our wireless age. And we continue to keep our curb appeal with the painting of 4 of our buildings, courtesy of Monmouth County grant, and Wall Township is giving us more in-kind service for landscaping and grounds maintenance. That's important to us because we had, like I said, we got 34 acres, and most of our volunteers are older people. So to have the township doing this for us means an awful lot to us. And thanks to a capital improvement grant worked by Jay Red and given to us by Senator Gopal, we're able to repair and restore our bathrooms. Okay, and that's very important, especially if you're women. Guys can use trees, but women is different. And several other buildings, we insulate and repair several HVAC systems, which we needed, and resolve several safety and security issues around here. Just want to let the senator know that the money was well spent, but we still have some unfinished work, and we're going to be reaching out to him for help again. And now let me tell you about primarily the main reason we're here. I've talked about exhibits and museums and, concrete, I guess. But, the InfoAge mission is to preserve, educate, and honor scientific innovation to inspire new generations of thinkers, dreamers, and visionaries. Now, when you think of that, think of guys like Marconi, Edwin Armstrong, and Dr. McAfee, Walter McAfee. Our STEM education program continues to expand by almost 25% every year over the past 4 years. In the 23-24 school year, we had over 1,100 students and 23 schools participated. But they didn't just come here to look at exhibits. They actually came here and got involved in a learning experience. This included how to solder, basic programming, podcasting, laser cutting, and design and using microcontrollers. For this just completed school year, the 24-25 school year, we had 32 schools and over 1,500 students. And it's not just from September to June. In August, we had 150 kids here from the school, one day. And it almost overloaded us, but it was a great experience watching these kids go through and touching and feeling and so forth. And if you've never seen kids, if you've seen kids text, you want to see them work with a, oh, good Lord. Well, typewriter is one thing, but what's the other thing that they use? Teletype machine. They think it's cool. Wait a second, that was 50 years ago, man. Yeah. So let me just get where I am. We're also beginning to offer extended activities to a frequent flyer. We've had one homeschooling group that's been coming in here over the past several years. And starting this month, if all goes well, we're going to offer them STEM learning activities like coding, circuit building, and machine design every 3 months in our what we call collaboratory learning space, which is a classroom. Okay, for 90 minutes to 2 hours at a time instead of the normal 20 to 30 minutes when they're here just on a visit. So they're not going to be just coming through and just getting just maybe the basics. They're actually going to be doing things and learning stuff. And it's very important to us. Our 4th New Jersey Makers Day in March was again a hit, drawing over 100 families over 2 days, many of whom have never been here before. And when we say Makers Day, all of our museum activities came in here, and they had projects for them to work on along the lines of coding, soldering, various other things like that. Camp Invention and Space Week were very successful with over 90 people attending the 3 sessions. And we're still looking to develop a computer program or a computer week for next year. And then a small grant in September from First Energy Foundation is allowing us to purchase materials and develop guides for hands-on activities for families year-round at the ISEC, the InfoAge Space Exploration Center. So we help provide what the schools can't. And I think we do it very well, as you can see by we have repeat customers coming in. Our biggest problem is getting people here from Wall Township. We have people come from Brooklyn, New York, Pennsylvania, North Jersey, South Jersey. We can't get them from right next door. It's terrible. And here's one last metric for you. Our attendance is up almost 14% over last year. And to us, that's a great thing. That means that the word's getting out. So step by step, one step at a time. And if you believe in us, become a benefactor, become a supporter. Send people here. Send your companies here. Support us with support us with dollars. Let's face facts. That's basically what an awful lot of stuff is. Anyway. And does anyone have any questions? I like that.
I'm going to be introducing two folks for the Wall of Honor here at Camp Evans. Two gentlemen who really came up basically from the same background at Fort Monmouth, and that's right. I know that. I get that. But listen, hey, Vic's rigged me out on all that. Okay, so but anyhow, they came up in the electronic warfare disciplines with the Army, electronic warfare, and predominantly for Bob and for Tony in the area of survivability, system survivability, particularly for aircraft survivability. And so Bob in particular, came up through the ranks as a project engineer, a branch chief, and a division chief. At a time when they were building new systems to protect, and for the Army, it's mostly rotary wing aircraft, right? And they have to protect them against a whole multitude of threats. And I have things here, and I could read them to you, but I've been accused of saying things and nobody understands what I'm talking about because I talk about Army stuff, right? And really, what you have is you have threats against aircraft across the whole spectrum of emissions, RF emissions, IR, infrared, laser type designators. And so what we have to do in the Army is we have to design and build systems that can counter those threats. First, you have to detect the threats, and then you have to build countermeasures to defeat those threats. And you've all watched Top Gun, and they fire the missiles at them, and those things come out of the airplane, and the missiles chase them instead of the airplane. Well, that's what these guys do for a living, okay? They developed Bob Zanzalari in his career, developed a whole host of systems that cover both IR and RF countermeasures. The systems that have the ability to detect the launch, to detect the actual missile coming at the aircraft, and then to determine what type of a missile it was, so that the system decides whether it's going to use a traditional RF countermeasure or it's got to use a laser, an IR countermeasure in order to go right down the throat of the missile to confuse the detector so that it misses the aircraft. Or the aircraft, in some cases in fixed wing, they fire the chaff, and those are the flares that you see to divert the missile. Or they have to have a laser countermeasure system that has to be cued. But the problem is that all of the threats don't operate the same. So, and it depends upon the theater that you're operating in and the enemy that you're facing in the theater and where they got their equipment. They could get it from our friends in Europe, or they could be getting it from our friends in Asia, or they could be getting it from a whole host of other places. And they all operate differently. So today in the Army and across DOD, we're chasing something called modular open systems, where we try to build systems with basic building blocks that can host the functionality that the Army needs, that the units need, where you can add the capability specific to that region, regardless of where they're going. Back in the 90s, Bob and his folks adopted that approach pretty much before anybody else was adopting that approach, and adopted the modular open systems approach to aircraft survivability equipment in building RF countermeasure sets known as the AN/ALQ 211. Again, there I go. You have no idea what that is, but that's what they name these things, okay? And the ALQ to the AN/AL 212. One is an RF countermeasure. The other is an IR countermeasure. And by the way, I'm not a countermeasures guy. I worked in that area for about 2 years, but I know it's very. They kicked me ass. I worked on that plane that was out there. Yeah, I like playing, and I didn't like shooting at them. I just like riding in them. But so anyhow, they focused on building those systems that were open and scalable, so that the Army could modify and adapt these systems dependent upon the deployments that they were going to go, the enemy that they were going to face, and the threats that those enemies had. And that became more and more of a problem as the world changed from the 1990s until today. But these systems, because of the way that they were built, the way they were designed by Bob and his team, are still out there. They're still able to adapt.
They're still able to protect our aircraft, and you don't even know it. You don't hear about the successes. What you hear about is when a plane goes down, unfortunately. What you don't hear about is all the ones that don't go down, about all the lives that aren't lost. And a lot of lives are saved by the work that Bob and his team and all the work those folks have done, all the homework that they do. Today, the threat is proliferated more and more because the sale of these types of threats are happening more and more across many different countries and many different theaters. So, and these systems, like I said, are still in use today. They're still being modified today. They've moved on from just originally protecting aircraft like the CH-47 and UH-60 aircraft, which were predominantly for moving, and this is very important, moving troops into conflict or getting injured troops out of conflict. They've now on the F-16. They're on SOCOM aircraft. They're across all the other services. And they've also been sold to our allies because we want our allies to be fighting with equipment like ours. We don't always give them the best of what we have, but we give them what they need to be able to interoperate and fight with us, side by side with us, and survive, right? Because your friend today can be your enemy tomorrow, and you always have to be careful of that. So I think, so with that, I think I've kind of encapsulated Bob's early part of his career with the United States Army. From there, he moved on, and he moved up to headquarters CERDAC. This is before we moved from Fort Monmouth to Aberdeen to be the associate director. And he was there briefly, and then he moved over to be the systems engineering chief, where he stood up our experimental site at Fort Dix, which has become a pretty important place for the Army's transformation. A lot of what happens across communications, command, control, cyber, EW, communications, electronic warfare, surveillance, reconnaissance, those types of things. The Army takes a lot of that equipment, that people don't know it, to Fort Dix to experiment on new prototypes and new capabilities before they make decisions on what to buy. And in 2000, Bob was up in the headquarters, and that idea to turn Dix into that kind of an experimental site for the Army was brought to then Director Bob Dotto. Bob worked for him, and they stood up that experimental site. And that has really grown tremendously over the last 20 plus years to a real hub of activity today. Bob and I go down and visit the guys every now and again to see how they're doing. It's kind of fun to talk to the youngsters, as we call them. And then from there, he went on to become the associate director for the director previous to me. And then when I became director, he was my deputy. And basically, he planned the entire science and technology investment, over $300 million investment across the entire place, across command, control, computers, cyber, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Put that whole portfolio package together, and then had to sell it to the Department of the Army in order to get the money. It's part of the budget process that you are hearing about so much in the papers today. And part of that job also entailed, and it's important today because when you hear about all the roller coaster rides that the Department of Defense and the other federal agencies have been on with regards to funding cuts inside the agencies like DOD, like Army, somebody's got to figure out, how do we survive these cuts? How do we protect what we're doing in order to be able to continue to deliver what's necessary to the soldiers, and at the same time, take care of the people who work for us? Because you need them. You can't just get rid of them, like they say in the papers. You have to protect that workforce because they're the key to getting the job done. And all that has to be taken into account. And unfortunately, in the hot seat that Bob sat in, he had to try to sort through that with me, the folks that came before me, and the folks that came after me. Kind of a difficult job. So all in all, I think he's had a pretty storied career, directly hands-on, equipping the force, and then stepping up a couple of levels in order to make sure the guys who followed him could continue to do the same. So with that, Bob, we'd like to give you a plaque and we'll put you up on the wall.
Distinguished guests, colleagues, family and friends, I accept this award with great humility as I am keenly aware that recognitions such as this don't get achieved alone. It's the result of unwavering support from family, recognition and guidance from mentors, and collaboration with colleagues and industry partners whose contributions not only shaped my journey, but also inspired me to give my best. An honor such as this belongs as much to them as it does to all, to me, and I am truly grateful for their belief in our shared principles. I wish to convey my appreciation to the committee and all the individuals involved in the selection process to be included amongst the esteemed individuals whose names grace the wall of honor I hold in the highest regard. I believe there are 39 individuals there. I've had the privilege to know, be mentored by, be a colleague of, and considered a friend to over half of them. There were some of the individuals, other individuals that were going to be here tonight, but I want to call out a couple personally. Bob Palazzo, please stand up.
Now, can I please?
So, Bob actually started in what was known as P Division at that point in time, and he moved on from a civilian workforce into industry, moved out to Chicago, and started working for Northrop Grumman. And then I'll say it, he came home back to New Jersey and took over as Army Business Development Manager for ITT Avionics up in Clifton, New Jersey, which is where I spent most of my time in my early career. And to you personally, I extend my deepest gratitude because of your unwavering support, guidance, and inspiration. And you've been an integral part to all my endeavors. I love you. You know that. And this is a testament to their influence and encouragement. No achievement is truly solitary, and I consider myself fortunate to have been surrounded by such exemplary individuals. Being a Department of the Army civilian offers a unique opportunity for public service, granting a chance to apply expertise and innovation in areas from science and technology, engineering and business and administration. The names that adorn this wall remind us of the extraordinary diversity of experiences, contributions, and legacies that have brought us all here. Each name reflects a narrative of resilience, determination, and impact. Stories that have shaped organizations, the Army, industry partners, and the lives and well-beings of soldiers in innumerable ways. The Army isn't often thought of a leader in electronic warfare, especially survivability, aircraft survivability. To have been a project leader, the branch chief, and a division chief of the organization that led the development of two of the most significant aircraft survivability systems in the Department of Defense inventory is very special, as those systems are protecting our soldiers and airmen today, as Henry said, 30 plus years after they were concepted and we began the initial development on them. Commitment to the future. Induction onto this Wall of Honor is not merely a celebration of past achievements, but a solemn pledge to continue striving for excellence, innovation, and service. It is an enduring call to advance our mission to build, contribute, and inspire others. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize this recognition marks not the end of a journey, but the beginning of a new chapter. It strengthens my resolve to approach future endeavors with dedication and principle, carrying forward the spirit of this honor. I am profoundly grateful for this honor and leave tonight motivated to continue building upon the foundation that has brought me here. Thank you very much.
Okay, so our next honoree is going to be Tony Lisuzzo. He's sitting here in front of us. Tony comes from the same background, although he did start here at Camp Evans in this building, right? I was at his place.
Right. You were in the building, firefighter, your radar days, right?
Not in Marconi Day.
Not Marconi Day, bro. No, I'm going. Better get some Grecian pals. And you can read Tony's bio. I think it's in the program there. But it came up through electronic warfare survivability aspect of electronic warfare, because there's a lot of aspects to electronic warfare. But I think when you turn to Bob protecting vehicles in the air, and the Army tends to spend a lot of money to protect vehicles in the air, because vehicles in the air are expensive, right? Vehicles on the ground are not, right? And so for a number of years, the Army reduced its investments in that kind of electronic warfare that protected those vehicles and the soldiers on the ground, right? In 2000 and I guess it was in 1997, I guess, when we formed I2WD, right? Tony became the second director after Bob Dotto of I2WD. Shortly after that, we had a thing called 9/11, an event 9/11, which led us into Afghanistan, and we were confronted with a whole new threat, which we call IEDs, improvised explosive devices. And while the Navy and the Air Force had some systems that could protect, our servicemen from those kinds of threats, they weren't very tactical. They weren't readily available and able to be put in vehicles to accompany our troops on convoys and the like, or deploying on foot or whatever. And so something had to be done, because we were going down to Washington, and congressmen were visiting their constituents in the hospital and saying, "What are you guys doing?" Right? So it turns out we put someone in the Wall of Honor 2 years ago, Ray Irwin, and we told that story then, where he looked at a device called Shortstop, which was a quick reaction capability that we did for the first Gulf War, Desert Storm. And being the entrepreneur and innovative guy that Ray was, he adapted it for the IED threat, which was a very, very agile threat, because it was based on simple commercial technology, right? I don't know what they called them over in the Middle East, but they were Radio Shacks. And that's where these guys shopped, right? They were plane controllers, they were key fobs, there were a whole host of things that you use every day that they were modifying and using them to trigger these devices that they were hiding in roads and bushes and places that were doing a lot of harm. So there wasn't any way to build what we thought a single system to protect our troops against these folks. But what Ray came up with, the first device that Ray came up with, was able to quickly detect and defeat the way they were initially initiating the IEDs. And then we came out, and Tony was director of I2WD at the time. And of course, he was running the place. And of course, Ray was doing it, and Tony was kind of behind it. And then, we came out with variants of that. And then what happened is everybody got involved. We got a lot of help. You know what they say? If you think you need help, don't ask for it, because you might just get it, right? Because every congressman had a company in their district that had what we call the silver bullet. They had the answer. This is going to work on everything. And we knew that there wasn't anything that was going to work on everything. So Tony, who was very good at working on things down in D.C. with the leadership, he went to the Joint Improvised Explosive Device Task Force defeat office, along with the leadership in the Pentagon. And he said, "Okay, all these guys have the solution. Send them to me." So at I2WD here at Fort Monmouth, we had the anechoic chamber, which is where you test RF equipment in a quiet environment, so you can truly understand the characteristics of the RF, and test that equipment to see if it's operating according to advertisement, as advertised. I was up at headquarters at the time. I had worked for Tony. I took an assignment that he strenuously suggested that I take.
So my job was to brief this at times. And I can tell you I had some data. So at one point in time, I2WD under Tony had processed over 600 silver bullets through our chamber. Because when they came through I-2 at Fort Mama, if they passed there, then they actually went to Yuma Proving Grounds out west, where they actually put them on vehicles with real explosives and tested them in what we call a relevant environment before they would buy them and deploy them. At one point in time, the numbers were 600 silver bullets came through Tony's chambers, and only 100 made it to Yuma. So that means we didn't buy all that other stuff based on political pressures. We were able to take the engineers and sort it out before we spent the money. And from there, the organization morphed from Warlock, from that first QRC that we did, to a couple of other variants that ultimately became in transition to a program of record called CREW. And I forget what CREW stands for. I don't know if you remember it or not. Something EW, Counter Remote IEW, the EW, whatever. We got acronyms, okay? And we'll drive you crazy with them in the Army. But that took off as a program of record, and there were a couple of generations of that. And at one point in time, that grew to over 80,000 plus units deployed across the battlefields of Afghanistan and Iraq. They were in other theaters as well, as that became a very popular way of fighting us and our allies. That threat proliferated itself to other theaters. The organization that we started in I2WD started out with 3 people in a lab, and Tony, now it's 220, I think, that take these devices in from all over the world, do forensics on them, and then inform the other services and DoD what the next thing that they should do. So, and all of this was done probably with ruffling a lot of feathers. As Tony would like to say, he's a maverick, and he is. He gets himself in trouble a lot. But he manages to get out of it. I don't know how, but he manages to get out of it. And if you read his bio, all I can say is it's either an impressive bio, or Tony, since you left the government, you haven't been able to hold a job, buddy. All right. Yeah. So with that, and to recognize you for all the great leadership you provided in pulling all that off, and it endures today. That capability endures today, and it's something that's part of it woke the Army up to having to invest in EW for the ground troops, like it had given up on the 90s. They'd given that up in the 90s, and we got a lot of money back in because of the threat, but because we demonstrated how to respond. So with that, I can tell you a story about this. So there's a lot of jokes about being Italian. So every time I put on some type of wireless or wired device, I'm Sicilian, and it gets me kind of nervous. So I won't go there. All right. But it was kind of funny because first of all, let me go through my speech, because I think I capture a lot of the points here, and this is really heartfelt. So Henry, thanks for keeping it clean. There's a lot of stories there. We go back from the 80s, but good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everybody's enjoying themselves. This is a fantastic venue. There's a lot of history here. As Henry mentioned, I did start working here back in, I would say, 1980 as a young engineer on a mortar locating device radar system. Matter of fact, this building was the headquarters, and I worked in the engineering side in one of the other buildings that are adjacent to this. But I look at those that are on the wall right now that came before me, and I stand with an elite group. The men and women, I've worked with half of them, as Bob said. Bob and I go back from those days. It's unbelievable. But I would also like to congratulate Bob Z. And if we start looking at or thinking of back when we were young in an electronic warfare lab, I would have never thought that we would be at this point, all these years later. And the accomplishments that we have done, as you heard from Bob's career and some of the things that Henry said, are still in a lot of Army use and actually joint use, saving lives. But first, I would like to
take this opportunity to also thank my family, my wife, Christine. Unfortunately, my son, Michael, and his wife, Molly, my daughter, Sabrina, and her husband, Kevin, and grandchildren, Kaylee and Nico, they couldn't be here. Why? My Sabrina is very, very pregnant. And the doctor told her she couldn't be about 20 minutes from home. So I understood that. And Molly, this is my son's first. She's also pregnant. So it looks like this year we're going to have one in December, one in early November. So we'll see. But they can't be here, but they're in my heart. So I share this award with them throughout the years. They've believed and they deserve it just as much as I do. So I would also want to say thank you, Tom. Thanks for coming up from Virginia. I know it's a 6-hour drive from where you were. And Jay, my colleague and friend who works with me now, and his wife, Danielle, thank you for sharing this. But I also like to thank Bob, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here right now. Okay. And I just want to say that because there's a lot of stories. Mr. Bob Palazzo tried several times back in 1983 to get me over to the EW, Electronic Warfare Lab at that time as a supervisor. He was the division chief at that time in the P Division, Protection Division. So that's where it started it all. So thank you. Okay. But you also got me in trouble. Because you needed help? Yeah. I can tell you. But yeah, so thank you so much. So with that, I mean, I see a lot of friends here. I mean, this is amazing. This is almost like a homecoming. But I must admit, before I came here, I was discussing what I should say with Christine, right? And she told me, don't try to be charming, too witty, too intellectual, just be yourself. Well, that was encouraging and daring, right? Because for those of you who know me, that can get me in a lot of trouble. All right. And Henry said it. Yeah, I ruffled a lot of feathers because people sometimes don't want to hear the truth. And when you're down in the Pentagon or you're on the Hill, when you speak the truth, it takes a while for convincing, right? And during one of the events, especially with the IEDs, where the Army we were having a lot of casualties because of these roadside bombs, there was something to do. And what we did is you heard Ray's mention, who's on the wall. We tasked Ray to come up with a chance to see how quickly we can turn things around. And in 3 months, we had 300 systems out there. Okay. I mean, protecting our soldiers. And I can tell you, if it wasn't for the media, we would have continued going. But when the media found out that we had jammers, or the U.S. had jammers out there, then all of a sudden started becoming a cat and mouse game, right? We deliver something, they would change. Then we would have to see that we would have to deliver again. So the momentum started, right? So we just kept up with all that. But, okay, what I wanted to really say is the intent of the info wall of honor initiatives to preserve the rich history of individuals that contributed to the defense of this nation and give all members a sense of heritage, honor, pride, and belonging. At the beginning, as I begin to think about what I was going to start to say in the speech, I reflect on something my son told me once. He said, Dad, all the medals, recognition, money in the world are of no value if you don't have your family. Well, sometimes it's funny how sometimes your children will have a little bit more wisdom than you do. However, in addition to those families, all of us here understand we are also responsible and took it to heart that we had a professional life and providing the necessary capabilities needed to ensure that our men and women of the armed service have an opportunity to return home to their families safely as well. And that's what it's all about too, the soldier. This community, known to all of us as Fort Monmouth and Camp Evan, is the best recognized for providing the best capabilities to our warfighter. Back in 1978, I started as a GS4 intern, and I started working on some of the communication systems. PRC 77, which is the personnel radio, and the VRC-12, which was the vehicle mounted radio. Then in 1980, I came down here and I worked on Firefinder, PM Firefinder, which is the artillery locating radar system. And I worked here for quite a few years. And then again, Bob took me back and we got up to Fort Monmouth proper, Electronic Warfare Lab. And the reason I said that it went uphill from there, but you were the cause, is because I learned one lesson. Never take no for an answer, because there's other ways to get things accomplished. And I took that to heart, and my whole career was, you telling me no? No, that can't be. There has to be a way. And we found a way. And thank God I kept on pushing and found those ways. And I had a great team that helped me do that. So, and then back in 98, I was selected by OSD, Office Secretary of Defense at the time, to run this Sync Interoperability Program Office. This was basically working with the combatant commands across the world and finding out what they needed from us from a technology perspective. So I did that. And then in 2000, I became an SES as a CERDEC Associate Director. That was a great experience. But then it's September 5th, as Henry mentioned, September 5th, 2001, all hell broke loose. Okay. Well, September 5th, I transferred to I2WD. September 11th, all hell broke loose. 6 days later. And then we never stopped going. I mean, we never stopped doing anything. The world has changed at that time. So we supported the ground zero efforts, and Henry was one of the individuals that I sent up there. We spent 30 days, 45 days up there, back to back, helping. And then we had several individuals down at the Pentagon disaster. And then we started developing everything the soldier could need and protect them in our country to get the job done and return home safely. So I am proud to have the opportunity to support the Army, and then honored to have worked with a great team and lead all the dedicated men and women that have supported the Army and the Intelligence and Information Directorate throughout those years. So I accept this honor and privilege, and I dedicate this to those men and women that has made this happen. So thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. We're good, Senator. Quick inside scoop before I begin. My name is Jay Rad, and I'm a member of the board. But I kind of learned that I'm kind of a proxy seat for my dad, Herman Red. So I kind of am the proxy seat. And the way that I learned that this year is my dad a few weeks ago reached out and said that he saw John, who's the chairman of our board over here at InfoAge, and he said, "Hey, can you get your son to kind of introduce the senator tonight?" And my dad kind of voluntold me that I was going to be doing this evening. And so I'm here, but it's an honor for me to be here because I've known the senator for a considerable amount of time. We actually were staffers together, and then I had the privilege of working for him when I was counsel to the Senate, and now I get the ability to work with him. He is just a great individual, and it's an honor for me to get to present this award. And thank you, Chairman, for this honor. His relationship to InfoAge and to Fort Monmouth is more than public service. He's the chair of our Senate Education Committee. He's a tireless advocate for our students, our schools, and our community. But he's also family. The senator's mom worked right here at Fort Monmouth, and this site's story is his family's history as well. He understands Fort Monmouth. He understands the legacy and the work that was done here, which is why, and he understands the importance of preserving the achievements here and why it's important for the state to invest here. What makes the senator special is that he takes his work really personally, and it goes beyond politics. Recently, a friend of mine who's a staunch Republican told me how much he respects the senator. And when I asked him why, he spoke to specifically an event during the pandemic where he personally reached out to the individual's parents to make sure that they had everything they needed on the vaccine side and things like that, and then followed up with them during the pandemic. And that kind of just spoke to him. And I think that that's really who the senator is. He's someone who reaches across the aisle, leads with compassion, and never loses sight of the people behind the policies. And so, and I think that kind of speaks to how we got here at this point, bringing the senator to InfoAge. I reached out to him because my dad has been working with some individuals to showcase the African-American contributions here at the fort. and the senator was, he agreed to come by and visit. But I also learned that Fred Carl had spoken to the senator, because the senator reaches out every year to constituents to wish them happy birthday. And one of Fred's wishes was for him to come to InfoAge. So we kind of married that together, and we had a visit where he got to see InfoAge, and visit the African American Museum, but also see everything that happens here. And that's what led to the senator leading to bring $100,000 line item in the budget to InfoAge. And I think that Mike mentioned it earlier. We were able to use those resources to improve many of the facilities that hadn't been touched since the federal government left at that point. But the senator came here, saw it, and said, "What do you need?" And he stepped up and delivered $100,000 here to InfoAge to help us. This helps our educational mission. It helps us to be able to reach more folks, and it ensures that our history is preserved for generations. He believed in the power of places of InfoAge to inspire and prepare the next generation. And that's just who he is. So I'd like for all of you to give a warm welcome to my friend and our friend, Senator Vin Gopal.
Thank you all very much. Congratulations to the other honorees. We have Senate resolutions for Anthony and Robert and Raymond because obviously the work they've done. We want to make sure that the entire state of New Jersey understands it, appreciates it. So we put it into official record. We're going to present that, Jay, to the honorees at the end of this. But I hope you will cherish that, because it is an appreciation from the state. And when we return to Trenton, we're going to put the three of your names into official record so the whole state knows of this. I was really excited about the $100,000 until someone told me it went for bathrooms. Is that true? All right. Well, hopefully it's going for other things too. All right, good.
He's out of touch on
Yes.
construction costs.
Construction costs. Got it. Got it. Yes, bathrooms are important. I was like, this is important work to preserve our history, but that's one way to do it. I don't know if there's any Ocean Township residents. The mayor of Ocean Township's here. If he can give him a round of applause, John Napolitani. And the mayor's lived here his entire life in the Ocean Township area, and he wanted to come here tonight because they are working hard to preserve history over there. And I told them I was born and raised here in Monmouth County. My mom worked at the fort, and I came to InfoAge for the first time when Jay Red invited me maybe about a year ago. I didn't know this place exists. And I got to go through and couldn't get out of the garage and saw the incredible history and everything that the men and women did for generations prior, but also what the folks right now, the volunteers are doing right now to protect this incredible, incredible place. So it's important to make sure that the state invests in it, protects it, make sure that we get grants to support it. And hopefully, if you want to do something other than bathrooms next year, maybe we can get money for something else. But if not, that's fine, because I'm sure it's important to preserve it. But know that I come from a deep appreciation, especially as I heard the other two honorees before me and the incredible stories they had. I mean, any moron can vote yes or no in the Senate. Like, what you do is actually real work. And what you do each and every day throughout your careers and what you continue to do to protect this place really speaks volumes of everything we need to make sure. And when I walked around, it wasn't just the radios, it wasn't the antique cars, it wasn't the trains, it was everything about this place that really touched me in a way that I never expected when I came here. So thank you to everyone for supporting this place. Thank you to the volunteers. Thank you to the staff. Thank you to the board members. And know that you have a friend in the New Jersey State Senate. Also, because Herman Red has a lot of voters in Eatontown, that I am here to make sure I am here unconditionally as your ally and your friend. Thank you for this honor.
Good evening. My name is Tom Settergran. I think you already heard my introduction. And first of all, has everybody read this about Ray Chase? Shake your head yes. Shake your head yes. You did all read it, right? Okay, so I'm going to skip that part, and I'm going to tell you my Ray Chase story. So I came to InfoAge about 10 years ago with a load of junk from my grandfather's basically radio pieces and parts. And I met up with Ray, and Ray knew exactly what everything was. There was a flea market here, and I sold everything and made a buku bunch of money, and was pleased as punch. I got rid of all this crap. And so Ray and I got talking, and Ray said, "Would you like to volunteer here?" And I said, "Well, sure. This is a pretty cool place." And I said, "What do I do?" And he says, "Well, when you come here, you'll pick things up and put them down. And I said, hey, okay, what else would I be doing? Pick things up and put them down. And I said, that's it? He said, no, pick things up and put them down. So after 10 years, that's what I did. I picked things up and I put them down many times. But in working with Ray, I found out, and I think a lot of the radio guys know this, that he's really, really strong. He's much strong. He's got a few years on me, but he can pick up at least twice as much as I can pick up. And so I asked Ray, well, how do you do this? And he said, well, I go to the gym every day. Okay, I get that. What else? He said, I eat a can of sardines every day. I said, a can of sardines? He says, yeah, I eat a can of sardines every day. It makes me healthy and strong. So I said, okay. I went home to my wife and I was like, Ray says I should eat a can of sardines every day. So I did. I ate a can of sardines every day for about 3 weeks. But at that time, my wife said, get out of the bedroom. You smell like sardines. And so I had to make a serious decision. So be in bed with my wife or smell like sardines to be alone for the rest of my life. So anyway, that was a couple of the lessons that I learned from Ray. But Ray, can you come on up?
Thank you very much, Tom. My notes here say that we started our radio museum 20 years ago, but I was corrected tonight. It's more like 22, 23. Fred Call came to one of our club meetings and told us about InfoAge and asked if we wanted to be a part of it. Well, most radio clubs would like to have a museum, so we joined. We joined in InfoAge. We started in one of the cottages across the street, and then we moved to a small room in the hotel, and then we got our final location in 9032D. There was a lot of painting, scrounging up partitions to get it all going. There were many problems and setbacks, but we kept moving ahead. And we opened up, and early on, if we had 5 or 6 visitors in a day, that was a good day. Now we sometimes have 100, and that's routine. We also went on the road. Some of our members here will remember taking displays out to libraries, schools, or senior citizens groups to talk about the InfoAge concept. And now we have the school groups coming to us en masse. We started mostly with radio displays and TVs, but over the time we expanded our scope to all kinds of communications technologies and hands-on displays. And we pride ourselves on having working displays as much as possible. Over time, volunteers came and left, but right now we still have 5 of the original volunteers who started the museum, and we have a cast of about about 20 plus volunteers who keep it going. So when I look around at the campus as it exists now, 20 years later, I guess we did pretty well. And I'm looking forward to our 25th anniversary in a couple of years. And Mike Ruane, I have a special thank you for arranging this wonderful event on my birthday. Well, thank you very much. From this evening on, I will be enjoying my 93rd year. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, just want to say a couple of words. Ray's a Marine, unfortunately. And I used to give him a tough time about being a Marine because I was Army. And until my grandson became a Marine, then I had to watch what I said. But we'd like to thank you very much for coming here tonight. This actually finishes the program.